And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody. We're here with Dr. Garrard McClendon today. He's a talk show host and commentator, an author, a professor at the Chicago State University, and he's a producer of a film called Forgiving Cain. And I just found out he's a publisher as well. So we're going to dive in and see what he's been up to and have him tell us what's new. So, Gerard, how's been your day?
My day is going extremely well, Karen. I'm excited. I got a full night's sleep, about 8.5 hours. I worked out this morning for about an hour and 10 minutes. I'm feeling fantastic, Karen.
Was there anything in particular you were working on today?
Well, what we're doing is we're finishing up editing of the film Forgiving Cain. We're looking at an October release, virtual as well as PBS and possibly Netflix. And so we're working on we're in post-production right now. So we're trying to do the finishing touches on the film. And that's taken up most of my time. I'm also teaching summer school, so my days are pretty full. Lots of meetings, lots of editing, lots of teaching online, lots of virtual, asynchronous and synchronous teaching. And so my life is full right now. It's my calendar, my every hour of the day, every 15 minutes of the day is jammed up, But hey, I'm always willing to make time for my good friend Karen.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I know a little bit about Forgiving Cain, and I know the story starts when you were at CLTV.
Yeah, at CLTV a few years back, and tragedy struck. I was about to go on set for my show, and got a phone call from my wife, and she knows I'm a workaholic, and she's like, "You need to come home immediately." I'm like, "No, I'm staying here. I got a show that's going to start in 45 minutes or so." And, she's like, "Well, give the phone to your producer." And so I'll give the phone to my producer, and he talks to her, hangs up the phone. He takes me to the WGN parking lot. And that's when he told me that my parents were the elderly couple that was found dead in the forest preserves, and so that's right when you think that you will not be a victim or a casualty of violence in the Chicagoland area, it can come right to your doorstep, literally. And so, this has been my mission and crusade for the last 10 years to try to eradicate some of this violence and to try to get people to forgive the perpetrator, but at the same time, make stiffer penalties for violent criminals and to try to get people to forgive the perpetrator.
And that's what Forgiving Cain is all about. It's a documentary. And I understand you put the camera on and interview people whose families have been touched by violence.
Yes, we did. We interviewed 22 families who lost a loved one to gun violence. We narrow it down to 3 or 4 families in the documentary, but we mentioned them all. And it's just too prevalent of a pattern in this city. I mean, you've got 700 murders per year and nothing is being done. We're going to increase the police presence. Doesn't work. We're going to see if we can eradicate guns and have gun buybacks. Doesn't work. We're going to try to control the blocks so that narcotic sales aren't prevalent. Doesn't work. Nothing has worked. Several mayors have tried to come up with a solution. Several governors have tried to come up with a solution. None of this stuff works. And I think I've got, a 5 or 6 point plan that can work, but it probably won't be implemented because there's not enough political courage.
Right. So you, in this story, you were able to forgive early, but there's some people in your family, it took them a little longer to wrap their heads around that concept.
Yeah, forgiveness is a spiritual matter. It doesn't have a time limit on it. Some people can forgive instantly. For others, it may take an entire lifetime. For some of the families that we interviewed, some of them forgave early, some of them still haven't forgiven. And that's okay. There isn't judgment on when you forgive or if you even choose to forgive. It's just a matter of cleansing the heart. And for me, the cleansing of the heart had to come through forgiving.
Well, congratulations on just about finishing the film, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, we're excited. We're excited.
Yeah, make sure I get all the details so I can talk it up on the Media Curious channel and in my social media.
I appreciate that. I sure will.
Sure.
Will.
Cool. Hey, tell us about the McClendon Report.
So the McClendon Report is like this conglomerate. It's myself, my brother, and a few other people who we affiliate ourselves with, and it's basically hard opinion, but opinion based on serious, concrete fact. And we do this through the website that we have, McClendonReport.com, through the books that we publish. We've got podcast links on the website as well at McLendon Report. And we're just trying to get people to be thinkers, not to just fire off an opinion that has no basis in fact. We know that opinions aren't solely based on fact. An opinion has an objective and a subjective point to it. But the beauty of the McClendon Report is that we say some things that the average people, the average television, radio, or podcast show may not say. That's the beauty of the McClendon Report. While everyone's focusing on rioting and looting and are they going to tear up my neighborhood and are they going to loot my store, the McClendon Report says, you know what? That's not even important. What's more important is human life. That's what's more important. And so if I hear one more person talk about a store being torn up that they have insurance on and they're going to get reimbursed anyway, I don't want to hear it because George Floyd took a knee on the neck. And if you try to shift the false argument by comparing buildings being torn down and human beings being killed by the police, there is no comparison whatsoever. That's strictly contrast.
I think there's room for plenty of commentary that digs a little deeper and shows a little different perspective. You also are publishing Donda's Rules.
Yeah, Donda's Rules, the scholarly works of Dr. Donda West, the mother of Kanye West. She was a brilliant scholar. God bless her soul. I wish she was still here. I had the opportunity to meet her on 2 occasions. And I asked her once, I said, you really need to have your books, your scholarly works published. And she said back in the early 2000s, she says, well, Gerard, why don't you publish them? And I'm like, wow, this is interesting. And I never thought twice about it.
You open your mouth and all of a sudden you do it. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. So I never thought twice about it, publishing Kanye West's mother scholarly works. But after her untimely death, it really made me reflect. And I realized that none of her work was printed in book form. And so what we did is we took all of her scholarly works on her Chinese research. She was a Fulbright scholar and went to Fujian, China. She took Kanye with her. Kanye was a very young child at the time. Very few people know that Kanye West knows some Mandarin and Cantonese. He's definitely a world citizen. Donda West was a scholar of Alexander Pushkin and Russian African literature. She was a poet. Of course, Kanye gets some of his chops from her being a poet. She was definitely a person who was monumental in the Black literary platform of Chicagoland and the United States. And so that's why we published the book, Donda's Rules, the scholarly works of Dr. Donda West. And we also have her platform on Ebonics in the book.
Ah,
And we also have printed her entire dissertation. She earned her doctorate from Auburn University,
mhm.
and we have the entire dissertation on systems theory and written composition in this book. So it's a wonderful text, and it keeps us. It lets us know that Donda West still lives in her writing, and definitely through her son and through her grandchildren.
That's fantastic. Um, what possessed you to get into TV and media work? I mean, you have a Ph.D. in education, education leadership, I understand, and there's
Mhm.
lots of different, you're a professor. You know, you could just keep writing things for journals and teaching your kids, your students. What draws you to be a publisher and an author and to a filmmaker?
I realized at a very early age, Karen, that I had this gift, this ability to explain very complicated things in a very simple way. I must have been in third grade, maybe 7 or 8 years old when I realized this. So I knew early on that I'd probably end up being a teacher in some capacity. I taught high school English for 15 years, and then I've been a professor for 15 years. And so I knew that the academic side was always calling me. It's a calling for me. However, I also noticed that when you're an academic, the mainstream doesn't consume your work. And here's the thing about being an academic: academics know and write about things that are critical to civilization, but if the mainstream isn't consuming it, how can it influence civilization? You
Right.
do that through media.
Hmm.
You do that through radio, TV, internet. You do it through podcasting. You do it through printing books. You do it through offering content to the cultural world. Once you do that, then whatever you think, you say, you believe, that content can grow on Instagram then. So someone who will never pick this book up can go to Instagram on a daily basis, and I'll read you one of Donda's rules. So there may be some people who aren't readers, but they're still getting Donda's rules on Facebook, on Instagram. They're going to get it on in LinkedIn. They're going to get it in YouTube. They're going to get it on Tumblr. They're going to get it on Twitch. They're going to get it on Twitter. They're going to get it everywhere. And that's the power of media. Media can get to an individual at hyper speed. And that's what we have to focus on more and more.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're doing it, because you're a man who's with a voice who is uncommon in the Chicagoland area, and thanks for your contributions there. As a commentator, um, and I heard some of this in your last reply. As a commentator, what do you think your responsibility is to the greater public as you are in media? And what is it that you feel responsible for? And what do you hope that they get out of your work, the public?
My job and my gift and what I offer is facts and contemplation for the people. That's where that's my sweet spot. Very few people, Karen, live what Socrates, Plato, Aristotle called what? A contemplative life, a life of leisure. Leisure doesn't mean kicking back, having a drink, and enjoying the sun on your balcony. Leisure means contemplation. Have you contemplated on why bad things are happening, or why good things are happening, or why do you even think there is a good and bad? Are you contemplating on why crime is high? What's your contemplation on whether you personally should continue going to school, or if you should change your job, or if you should uh, influence or look at altering your family structure? This is all contemplation, and contemplation involves a mental capacity that says, wait a minute, let me sit back and reflect. Very few people do this. They wake up, they go to work, they eat 3 meals a day, they watch 3 hours of TV at night, they go to sleep, whoop, they wake up in the morning, rinse, repeat without any contemplation. My job is to get people to contemplate again, to think again,
To
to
pause.
look
You
at.
offer them a chance to pause and think.
Yes, yes. And everything isn't black, white. Everything isn't, no, yes, or go, stop. There's this middle ground. Uh, as my brother always mentions, we look at things from the left and from the right. Sometimes we have to look at things in a spherical manner. Maybe it's not here or here. Maybe it's not even in the middle. Maybe it's here. Or
Right.
maybe it's here. Maybe we have to spin the topic around and contemplate on what we haven't seen yet. And I think that's where human beings need to go. It's not just CNN, Fox, MSNBC, HLN. No, it's far beyond that. Do you read 2 or 3 newspapers a day? Do you read contemplative magazines that give you different points of view? Are you a reader? Very few Americans are readers, Karen.
Right.
We watch something that someone has given us, and then we regurgitate it. I'm gonna tell somebody, I'm gonna retweet it, and you didn't even check to see if it was true.
Yeah.
That's the sad part of society. I don't necessarily want to tell people what to do. I just want people to be critical thinkers.
I hear you. And I'm one of those people that I do read. I'm because I have friends looking over my shoulder. I do read what I tweet or retweet, and then I still get hammered with, "You missed the date. It was 2 years ago."
Yeah, it happens.
Like,
Yeah, it happens. It happens. It happens to all of us. I mean, because we can't read everything. If something, titillates us, generally we like to share it with others. But sometimes we just have to sit back and just reflect on things. If something's exciting to Gerard or Karen, it doesn't mean that we have to immediately retweet it.
right.
Maybe it's just for Karen to contemplate. All right. And then 2 or 3 days from now, she can share it with someone else.
Something you were talking about is something I call navigating the gray. That not everything is one or the other. It's not left or right or black and white. It's gray. And there's a lot of beauty in the gray. And if you decide to polarize yourself, you could be missing a whole lot of the beauty and a whole lot of minutia that really is the deeper part of any topic or issue. So I think these are polarizing times.
Yeah, very polarizing. And what happens is the powerful are the ones that end up telling the stories. So imagine if poor people and disenfranchised people ran television stations. Think about that. Think about if poor people did all the podcasts and all the radio and all the news. If poor and disenfranchised people who had a minority opinion were the ones who had the power. Wow. It doesn't mean that the world would be better. We would just see a different point of view. So if we look at someone who is deemed a looter, all right, someone who goes into a store after it's been damaged, after a protest, and you take things, all right, now, okay, that's one way of looking at it. But let's look at it this way. All right, people are upset. They take things out of a store. You grab a person who took something out of a store. You say, "Sir, why are you taking like all of this milk and these rice cakes and this cheese and this bread? Why are you taking?" He says, "I've got a baby to feed." Now, is it wrong? Maybe, because he's stealing the items. But check this out. That person looting that may have taken $50 worth of merchandise will probably do more time in jail than who? All of the Wall Street people in 2008, from 2003 to 2008, who were a part of the real estate crisis, that the real estate foreclosure crisis that occurred in the United States, and nobody went to prison.
Yeah.
That's problematic. So, and why didn't they go to prison? They didn't go to prison because they're powerful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Obama should have threw them all in jail.
That's criminal justice and the judicial system is a topic of mine that I like to pay attention to. And I like some things where it's going, but it still needs to go faster, I think, in my humble opinion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you can embezzle, $100,000 from a bank and not see one day in prison, but you can take somebody's laptop and get 5 years in prison.
Yeah.
See this. This is horrible.
This is a problem. Horrible. Yeah.
Yes. And it needs to be exposed. And it's too bad that there isn't more money for journalists who are on the ground. Because journalists are working hard right now. They're working overtime. They're working 10, 12, 14 hours a day. And when they go home, a journalist is still working because they're thinking about their story. They're looking for another lead. They may get a phone call in the middle of the night for someone that may have a tip that's going to help them complete their story and solve a crime. And so, but because we don't have adequate funding for journalists, and because a lot of journalistic platforms are being wiped out and eliminated, you got newsrooms that are cutting producers and writers. What a shame, Karen.
Yeah.
What a shame.
Yeah.
What a shame.
Yeah. Part of why I'm doing this series is I'm hoping that the public will start understanding who the people are that are on our TVs, in our newspapers, on the internet, and to get to know them better and understand how almost everybody I know that I'll be talking to is so vigilant about their duty. And to them, it's not just a profession, it's a vocation. And they take their service to the public seriously. Just because they're going to get in trouble with their editors if they have a fact out of line, but because it matters to the greater public. And we need to be informed truthfully with facts and truth. And I've not found anybody that is in the profession of journalism and media that isn't sincere about that.
Right, absolutely. Even when you look at crime in Chicago, the story is always 55 shot, 11 dead, 99 shot, 27 dead. Like, you don't get to know these people's names. You don't know, and it's because there aren't enough journalists, and the journalists that are out there aren't getting paid enough. There needs to be a human interest story on every person who's murdered in the city of Chicago. However, it's not going to happen because everyone's just focusing on the body count. No one's focusing on the human being, the civilization within Chicago. Here's another thing that gets me. While we're talking about rundown communities, why are people on the West Side shooting each other? Well, journalists need more money and more time and more people on the ground so they can research these subjects. Look, there's a reason why people from the suburbs know that they can get the best drugs from Chicago, Illinois. And so if you're coming up 290, or if you're coming up I-57 or the Dan Ryan, these shootings take place where? On 290 and I-57.
Yeah.
They take place there for a reason. See, people, black people just shooting each other. No, this stuff is run by cartels. But nobody talks about that. There are people in high places, business people, Karen, in high places who are getting paid based on the drug trade. Nobody wants to talk about that. We just talk about, let's put more police bodies on the street and everything's gonna be fine. Nope, it's not gonna be fine because you're only treating symptoms.
Yeah.
You just can't give me a pain reliever or you just can't give me a cough suppressant. You got to give me a little bit more than that if you want to get guns off the street and you want to get narcotics off the street. It's going to take a lot more than that.
These are tough times. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and a lot of us are looking at racism that is spurred by the killing of George Floyd and others. And where do you see do you think journalism's going to come out of this and rise again? Because there's been numerous layoffs. There's been hedge funds looking to just, milk media properties for what they're worth and just, barely put out the news. So do you think it's going to turn around? Do you have a crystal ball?
I think it's getting forced. I think it's getting turned around by organizations that are getting massive contributions now, Karen, because of people in high places not doing, one, their due diligence, and two, not being totally fair. I won't mention the company, but we're seeing it with the large social media company that didn't want to take white supremacist content off of its site. So over 100 very powerful companies decided we're not going to advertise on your platform anywhere. Now, because they chose not to advertise on the platform, now that particular social media platform feels that they need to remove 200 white supremacist websites. They should have did it years ago, Karen.
Yeah,
but they're only doing it because their bottom line is being heard. And so this is the beauty of organizations. The Anti-Defamation League mentioned last week that this is the highest number of contributions that they've received like in the last 12 months because people are abusing and misusing people. The NAACP is getting contributions. National Action Network is getting more contributions now because people are starting to realize that racism is a real thing. It's not some figment of everyone's imagination. The country was born on racism. We're all here because of racism.
Yeah.
When you look at Citizens Bank and Central Bank and Chase Bank, those three banks founded the slave trade.
Yeah.
So if you're not teaching that in public schools, nobody's going to know any better.
Yeah.
See, this is why the journalist is so important, Karen. The journalist.
To help answer the questions why.
Absolutely.
And what can we do about it?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you look at Breonna Taylor, all right? She's in the comfort of her own home.
Right.
See, so we get the human interest story there. She's in the comfort of her own home. They raided the wrong house and they put 8 bullets in her.
Yeah.
Really?
Right.
Both of John, he's in the comfort of his own house and a police officer mistakenly goes in and kills him. He's eating ice cream on the couch.
Yeah. Right.
This is so. The more we expose this, the better society can get. Because here's the other thing. Expose
it, and keep the conversation going.
Yes, keep the conversation going. You put intense heat and pressure into the situation. Because here's the other thing. You're not going to cure racism. It's not going to happen. Just like you're not going to cure sexism. It's not going to happen. Classism, no, not going to happen. Now, you can alter people's and influence people's behavior, but you can't legislate morality. So what has to happen is people have to start seeing how their bad behavior is going to be counterproductive to their civilization.
Right. Thank you for that. Hey, as you do the work you do and trying to get people to pause and contemplate and dive into, as I said, navigate the gray, dive into the issues. Is there ever been a moment where you said to yourself, or you just saw it all working and you said, this is why I do this work?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think my students at Chicago State remind me of that every day that I teach in class and every day that I have office hours. That we can heal the world. We can make it a better place. All right, to quote one of the greatest artists to ever walk the earth. We can do that, but we first have to believe it. And here's the other thing, Karen. We have to have a philosophy that is wrapped around what is at the highest good. Like if you wake up in the morning and you automatically have negative thoughts, you can't be at your highest good.
Right.
You know, a ladder is made so you can climb up to a higher level, right? Um, a cell phone is to make phone calls, text, and use social media. All right. You know, a ring lamp is to light yourself when you're trying to be, when you're doing an internet show. So those three things have a highest good. They can be used for other things, but they have a highest good. The problem is mankind, Karen, men and women haven't figured out, human beings, we haven't figured out what our purpose is. And beware the person who doesn't know their purpose.
Yeah.
They'll probably be violent.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Is
Yeah.
there
When you don't know your purpose, you operate outside of what the creator gave you to do.
mhm.
So if you're operating outside of your purpose, you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing.
Right.
And you don't benefit yourself, you don't benefit your family, you don't benefit the earth. You just
Sure.
don't, because you have no definition of self.
That makes sense to me. Hey, is there any projects that you got on your list that before you retire and drink your margaritas on a beach that you want to get
Wow.
done? You got a bucket list of projects?
The goal, Karen, is to write 2 books a year for the next 10 years. That's the goal.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, get 20 books in the can, and you know, live off the royalties of those books. And you know, I'll be lecturing and McClendon reporting for as long as the good creator would allow life to be in this body. You know, to get works into libraries, to continue to create textbooks, to get people to contemplate and reflect on themselves, and to just try to make this world a better place. That's why I'm here, Aaron Kring.
I knew that. And from what I can tell, you have made your corner of the world a little better place, and that's what we should all aspire to. So thank you for your work.
Yes, thank
Is
you.
there anything more we should talk about? Anything I haven't asked? Anything that's burning issue in your mind?
Well, you know, I am very upset, or you know, yeah, I'm upset and I'm concerned about everyone wanting to restart, you know, and go back to normalcy. You
Right.
know, let's go into the next phase. And once again, people are valuing money more than human life. You know, and don't get me wrong, I'm not being insensitive to people's businesses. Yes, people need to get back to work, but if you're not healthy and you're risking getting sick from COVID-19, you're not going to be here anyway. And so how can you be a benefit then? We really got to get this thing in check, because the numbers are going up more and more each day. We're probably looking, as Dr. Fauci mentioned, you know, we're probably looking in the next month or two at anywhere from 10, 20, 30,000 to 100,000 cases per day.
Yeah.
Is what Fauci is looking at. And if we take that into the fall, we're going to be in trouble. I'm just asking people to do diligence. You know, we have to wear the mask, right? You know, it's not that hard to do. I have to wear a jacket. I have to wear pants when I leave the house. I have to wear glasses to see. I have to put the keys in my car to drive. I got to put gas in the tank. These are things I have to do to get about my day. The least I can do, the simplest thing to do, Karen, is to wear a mask. Why would anyone not want to wear a mask? It's a very easy thing to do. You don't want to wear a mask? Fine. Get a colorful mask. You know, get a personalized
There's
mask.
some fun ones out there now.
I know. Get a mask to match every outfit. I mean, I've got McClendon Report masks that I wear. I've got a polka dot mask that I wear because they're fun to wear. You know, and so you know, we have to humor ourselves through this horrible pandemic and say, hey, there's a better way and there's a better day. We cannot look at 1919 again.
Yeah, no. Thank you,
Yeah,
Dr. Garrard McClendon, for your time and your insight. And
always.
I wear my mask, and I've been doing my social distancing. And
Yes.
may you stay healthy. May you stay safe. May you be at peace.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Karen. God bless you. Be encouraged. Keep your head up and stay. I need you to stay optimistic at all times, Karen.
Oh, it's not easy, but I'm managing it somehow. So,
Yes, 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 yes. God bless you now.
okay. Thank you. We're out.